Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
Tricky boss or not. Today's installment of a story with a similar plot. Enjoy it! Vanessa and I just left our twin girls, Stacy and Abby, at university after a long weekend visit. My name is Lucas Jones. My wife and I are now devastated and miss our girls. We had made plans to visit last weekend. We have always been a close family and spent all our free time together, so it takes some time to get used to the absence of our girls. As a senior engineer specializing in artificial intelligence, I worked from home. I was well paid, in high demand, and could work anywhere in the world. For the sake of my family, I decided to work from home in my converted hobby room above the garage. Being at home, I was able to see my girls every day as they grew. Now that they're gone, we miss them. Vanessa, my wife of 20 years, has worked closely with Jackson Grant for the past 7 years as his personal secretary and has enjoyed being away from home for a change. I mean, what wife would want to be at home with her husband 24 hours a day, as our situation requires? So, when she got a job at a law firm, I encouraged her to take it, which turned out to be the biggest mistake of my life. For years, Vanessa spent her free time doing yoga, modern dance, and spending hours at the gym to stay in shape. At 40, she easily passed for a 30-year-old thanks to her toned body and impressive physique. I loved making love to her, and our nightlife never faded. In fact, we still made love at least 3 times a week. Yes, it wasn't mind-blowing intim, but we enjoyed our bodies and satisfied our needs. At least, that was the illusion I lived under. Vanessa had her hobbies, and I had mine, including fishing and boating. I saved up for a new base boat and needed another $25,000 to buy an even larger base cap Puma boat that only cost $75,000. I'd been saving money for the past 5 years, which hadn't been easy because I had to pay all the bills and send my 2 daughters to college. At the rate I was going, it would have taken me another 5 years to save up the money. Vanessa was great, and when she started working, she helped me save and contributed to my boat fund because she knew how much I wanted a new toy. She told me that I was the best husband and appreciated how I took care of her and the girls all these years, and that I was the best father in the world. She always knew how to make me feel valued and loved. Vanessa was the first and only woman I ever loved, and I was grateful to have her in my life. We were both looking forward to growing old together and spoiling our grandchildren. Life was wonderful. Vanessa loved her job, and Jackson loved that she worked for him. Her ability to meet his work requirements and attention to detail made her extremely valuable to Jackson and the firm. Without going into too much detail, Vanessa saved Jackson's 5th place several times and gladly helped other partners of the firm in emergency situations. We've had dinner several times over the years with Jackson and his wife, Mary, who were great fun to be with. They had 3 children, 2 of whom were at university and a girl in high school. We ended up going out to dinner together several times a year and also attending company events. A few years later, both Mary and I noticed how close Vanessa and Jackson seemed when we were together. Vanessa seemed to know Jackson as well or better than Mary, which worried us a little. One evening after dinner, we all went to the living room and enjoyed the music and dancing. After a few dances, I was ready for a break. When we got back to the table, one of Vanessa's favorite songs was playing, and she asked me to dance with her. I pulled away, smiling, and said I needed a break. Jackson was still standing at the table and said he would dance if she wanted. I nodded, and they left together. Mary and I were talking and noticed that our spouses had not returned. After a few minutes, we noticed that our partners were still on the dance floor and were now dancing to a slow song. They hugged each other tightly, and their bodies were closer together than normal dance partners. While they danced, we looked at each other and knew what the other was thinking. Mary, don't you think they're too close, or is it just me? Yeah, a little too close. And to be honest, I don't like what I see here. I mean, they look like a couple, not friends. Do you think they're having, an affair? I don't know, Lucas, but I'm going to find out. They came back to us and behaved at ease, without feeling guilty about their appearance on the dance floor, as if everything was normal. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but bring up how comfortable they looked dancing. Vanessa, I couldn't help but notice how close you were to Jackson and how cozy you looked in his arms when you danced with him tonight. Is there anything I need to worry about, baby? She gave me an angry look and said, Are you serious? Do you really think that I would ever cheat on you? Never. Jackson and I have become close friends because we work so closely together, and we are very comfortable as friends. Don't be angry, I just asked. I mean, both Mary and I thought you looked more like a married couple because of the way you danced. It's obvious that you've danced with him many times. When you and he leave town, do you often dance together? Oh God, are you jealous of me and Jackson, honey? He's 10 years older than you, and it doesn't compare. You have nothing to worry about. Yes, we danced a few times, but no more than what you saw tonight, I promise you this. Has he ever tried to do anything more with you? Honey, I don't want to lie to you, and yes, he really tried several times, but I made it clear to him that I was happily married and would never cheat on you. He understands and knows better now. We're just close friends. Have you ever kissed him or done anything else with him? Listen, this is childish. I just told you that I never had anything intimate with him and that I have been faithful to you since we were together. I've never been with another man. But you didn't answer my question. Having intimacy is one thing, but intimacy in my eyes is also cheating. Were you close to him, kissed him, held his hand, shared our private moments with him? One day he tried to kiss me and surprised me with it. After the shock I experienced, I pushed him away and said that I was banned and this would not happen. Yes, we held hands, but not as a couple, just as friends, I swear. I was faithful to you and never showed even a hint of intimacy towards him. You have to believe me. I've never lied to you, and I'm not going to start now. Do you like him? I mean, if we weren't married, would he be the one you'd be with? Honey, do you want me to speak hypothetically? Really? My God, you're just a jealous boy. Okay, and if I had never met you, he would have been a fair catch. I mean, he looks good, we get along well, and he's a strong man, which is an aphrodisiac for many women. That was the end of my evening. For some reason, I wasn't happy, but I had no reason to be upset. I knew she was telling the truth and being honest. She was not having an affair, and they were nothing more than friends. I still had a bad feeling, but I couldn't figure out what was going on. That same evening, Mary had similar questions for her husband, Jackson. Are you having night with Vanessa? She shouted to Jackson as they drove home. No, of course not. Why are you asking me this? Because I am a woman, and I see different things. I see the way you look at her and the hot way you dance together tells me that you have danced with her many times. You talk about her like she's the most important person in the office. Honestly, sometimes I feel like she's more of your wife than I am. I'm just not sure if you're actually having intimacy with her. Tell me the truth and don't lie to me or I'll cut off your balls while you sleep. Mary, I love you and only you. I never had a night with Vanessa. Yes, we are close, and I think it shows when we are together. We've been working together 8 to 10 hours a day for a couple of years now, and I guess you could say she's a bit like my work wife. She knows what I like in my coffee, she knows my mood, and we talk about all sorts of things. But we never had intimate relations. We're just good friends, I promise. The next day, Mary called Lucas, and they exchanged their conversations and compared notes. Lucas didn't like the statement that she was Jackson's work wife, but he was reassured that they both admitted there was no intim. Well, I'm not sure, Lucas. I didn't like what I saw last night, and I'll keep an eye on it and let you know if anything comes up. We said goodbye and promised to keep each other updated. What I didn't know was that Mary was planning to hire a private investigator to accompany him on their next trip out of town. A month later, Mary called me and asked me to meet her for lunch, which she had never done before. She explained to me that she had some information that she would like to share. We met for lunch the next day at the nearby Olive Garden. Lucas, since we last spoke, I hired a private investigator to accompany them on their trip to Nashville. Here is the report that I will share with you, as promised. I felt my heart pounding with fear as I looked at the folder in front of me. She saw my face and tried to calm me down. Don't panic, Lucas. It's not that bad, and in fact, that's exactly what we were told. But I'm not sure I like it. Here, look at this, she said, handing me the folder. According to the report, they checked into the hotel, then checked into separate rooms and met for dinner at 7 p.m. They shared a bottle of wine, danced to 3 slow songs, talked at their table, and then took the elevator back to their separate rooms. There was no no signs of inappropriate behavior, and other than a few slow dances, there was nothing to indicate an ongoing affair. The next night, they repeated the same events without incident. Attached were a dozen photographs of them sitting next to each other and talking, and some of them dancing, as we had seen them that evening at dinner, with such closeness that we both felt uneasy, but nothing more. They both seemed to be loyal and honest in their relationship, but I'm worried that it could lead to an affair over time. I agree, but I know that Vanessa would never do this without warning me. One of her core values is honesty, and she doesn't do anything in secret, and cheating would be a good reason for that. She also knows that I would not condone adultery, and she would not jeopardize her marriage. I'll keep an eye on them, but for now, I think they'll both be loyal to us, Mary said. The house had been cold since the night I asked Vanessa about Jackson. She knew me and knew I was still angry because I saw her so close that night. She gave me some time and space, and eventually, we returned to normal. I noticed that she no longer talked about work when we were together, and she no longer mentioned Jackson's name, which was a big change. Until that evening, she loved to come home and tell me about her day and how she and Jackson did this or that or solved some problem together. Vanessa made an effort to allay my concerns when she announced her upcoming trip. I realized that she was nervous about my feelings. I later learned that nothing happened because of a trip to Nashville, where Mary sent a private investigator. But before she left, Vanessa assured me that she loved me and I had nothing to worry about. For some reason, after Mary told me she was his work wife, I became a little distant, and there was an obvious change in our relationship. I didn't like the idea of sharing my wife, even if it wasn't intimate, but it bothered me so much that our nightlife became less important and more forced. After we had been married for 20 years, Vanessa sensed my attitude and knew something was wrong. I felt terrible when she asked me if Jackson and I were having an affair that night. I never thought that our dancing would show how close we had become at work. Of course, I didn't allow intimate situations into our relationship, but Jackson and I became close friends and shared our personal feelings. We were aware of each other's feelings and moods to the extent that we knew what the other was thinking. Over the years, we developed a close friendship and developed a special chemistry between us that kept us together. In another life, we both knew we would be together, but neither of us made those feelings a reality. I loved Lucas more than anything in the world, except for my girls, and I would never cheat on him or do anything behind his back. My marriage to Lucas and my family were the most important things in my life. I treasured our children, our wonderful life together, and my wonderful and loving husband. But after dinner with his wife that evening, Lucas acted strangely. He is no longer as loving and acts distant. I know my proximity to Jackson is bothering him, and I don't know what to do. I'm going to talk to Jackson in the morning. He is always so helpful, and I need his help to get my marriage back on track, Vanessa said. Jackson saw the look on Vanessa's face when he walked into his office, and knowing her so well, he knew she was hurting. What happened, Vanessa? Lucas has become a completely different person since he saw us dancing that evening. He believes that we are closer than just work colleagues. Things have changed since then, and I need to improve my relationship with him, but I don't know how. Any ideas? I understand what you're talking about. Mary felt the same way that night. I think our dance gave them some insight into our relationship. I made the mistake of telling Mary that I consider you my work wife because we are so close all day long and know each other so well. It didn't go well, and she was very upset too, Jackson replied. Vanessa flinched when she heard him call her his work wife, knowing that if Lucas heard that comment, it would become a real problem at home. She looked down at her hands, upset that her husband had gotten hurt because of her display. Finally, she answered, Jackson, I want to make amends to Lucas. He had been saving for this boat, and it would be several years before he had enough money. I wish I could give this to him to cheer him up and show him how much I love him. You're a man. What would you think if I took out a loan for the balance and surprised him like that? Would he be angry or happy? Jackson thought about her words and had an idea, but he didn't immediately share it with Vanessa. No, I'm not sure about that. Let me think about it and try to come up with something, and we can discuss it over lunch today. Is that okay with you, baby? She said yes, thanked him, and went back to work on the project. What Jackson didn't tell Vanessa was that Mary would be flying to Phoenix for 2 weeks next month to visit her mother, and he may have had a plan that would satisfy his craving for this woman. Yes, Vanessa was his work colleague, but he wanted her in his bed from the moment he met her. That one night when he tried, and she rejected him so vehemently, kept him from trying again. She was forbidden fruit, and temptation had reached its climax. Now, finally, after all these years, all the nights of dancing together, all the secret thoughts they shared, he might have a chance to have his way with her. As promised, Jackson took Vanessa to lunch that day and shared his thoughts with her. Once they finished eating, Jackson smiled at Vanessa and said, "I don't know how you'll take this, but I have an idea that I'd like to discuss with you. If you object, just say so, and I'll never bring it up again." "Okay, now you intrigue me. What's on your mind?" "It's no secret how I feel about you, and we both know that we would be together if we weren't married. I wanted to be intimate with you and sleep with you ever since I met you, but I respected your wishes and didn't try since that one time. I also love Mary, and I know you love Lucas, and I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize either of our marriages." Vanessa looked at him, wondering where this was going. Yes, she was attracted to Jackson and wondered what it would be like to be with him intimacy, but she would never consider cheating on Lucas. "Jackson, yes, I feel the same way, but as I told you before, I would never cheat on my husband." "I understand, and I have an idea. What if there was a way to be together for once without cheating?" "Are you crazy? Lucas would find out, and my marriage would end." "What if we tell him? Then it wouldn't be cheating." "Okay, Jackson, we need to get you to the hospital. You've obviously lost your mind. Did you hit your head or fall down the stairs?" "Very funny, Vanessa. Let me tell you about my idea. Mary is going away for 2 weeks next month, and I have an idea that I think will benefit everyone. I will have access to the company resort for the weekend while Mary is away. I'll invite you and Lucas to celebrate with us this weekend to thank you for your years of hard work. A weekend at the resort, food and drink, spa, boating, and fishing will be included in the price. That's when we'll tell Lucas that you and I have always been faithful to Mary and him, but that we only intend to be together once this weekend. After this one time, we will never go down this path again. We will be 100% faithful spouses. We'll even put this in writing in a postnuptial agreement that states that we'll give up all financial assets if we ever get back together." "Jackson, you're not listening. He won't let me cheat on him. He'll divorce me in a minute in New York and never look back. I will never let this happen. No betrayal. It's not cheating if he agrees to it. If you tell him in advance that we are doing this, it will not be cheating. And it goes even further. I will give him a bonus of $25,000 and explain that this bonus is to thank him for all your extra hours and hard work. I will explain that the bonus is due to the spouse who sacrificed his time for her absence. This is the amount that, according to you, he needs to buy a boat. Look, Vanessa, I know men, and if he knows you're safe in doing what you want, he'll allow it. He will be there all this time and will know that you are safe. He won't feel like you're cheating on him because he'll know and be okay with it. And besides, you will be with a friend only once in 20 years of marriage. Lucas will get the boat he dreamed of, one day, and you and I will be together, and we can go back to our lives without wondering what it would be like. It will be a wonderful memory. I'm sure that in 20 years, he will agree to give you this one time. Like I said, I know the guys, Vanessa, and I know Lucas will give you this gift if we give it right. He loves you and will understand when we explain that he will have you back forever, not to mention that wonderful boat he dreamed of. Wow, you really thought of everything. So if we tell him we're going to be together, and he says yes, it won't be cheating? I don't think he'll agree to this. What about you, Vanessa? Don't you wonder what it would be like, just once? We are so close, and I want you so much. Tell me you don't feel the same way, and I'll forget all about it. Tell me your loving husband won't give you a one-time hall pass after 20 years of marriage, just this one time, because he knows that's what you want. I promise you that this will not change anything in your life. Once he understands that this is something you need to do, and only once, he will accept it. Yes, you know how I feel about you. So, what's your plan? How do we do this? This is my girl. You need to tell him about the weekend at the resort, which will last from Friday noon to Sunday noon. You explain to him all the amenities and how nice it will be there, and that this is a celebration of your years of service. I also think that after he agrees to the weekend, you should show him a little more love and show him how special he is to you. If he knows how much you love him, he won't feel insecure when we present our idea to him at the resort. Of course, if we tell him about our plans at the resort, he might say no, and nothing will happen. However, I know that once he sees the benefits, he will agree to this one-time event. For the next week, Jackson worked with Vanessa every day. He kept trying to convince her that it wasn't cheating and that after 20 years, her husband would be understanding and allow her to be with his boyfriend of 7 years just once, with the promise that it would be a one-time thing. Her complete devotion to him afterward, along with a renewal of their love and money for his boat, Jackson was convinced that this would be enough to allow her to spend this one time with him. After a lot of effort, he finally managed to convince Vanessa that it wasn't cheating and that her husband would let her be with him this time. As crazy as it sounded, Jackson had somehow convinced her that everything would work out perfectly and that she had earned this one-time pass to bed. Excited, I told Lucas about the weekend and how it was a reward for my hard work and a thank you to Lucas for the extra hours spent on the road. With my enthusiasm, I convinced Lucas that it would be a great weekend. After Lucas agreed to the weekend, I went ahead with the Love Lucas plan. I started dressing hot every day and kissing and hugging him while we sat on the couch watching movies. We had into him every night in every way. He was so happy, and our lovemaking was now hotter than ever. We were like teenagers, and I expressed my gratitude to him in many ways, special dinners where I told him how happy he made me, what a wonderful husband he was, and how I would never leave him. When we went out with our friends, I made it clear that Lucas was a great husband and a wonderful lover. I could tell he was embarrassed by the attention, but I could also see how it cheered him up and made him smile. With a little effort on my part, our night and relationship became stronger than ever. I had to remember all this after our weekend and continue to let him know how special he was to me. It was true, I adored him, and he was a great lover. He always made me feel loved and special. I loved showering him with all this love and attention. He liked it too and started bringing me flowers and gifts, his words of love, his sweet kisses in bed. Yes, he was a fantastic lover. I couldn't imagine life without him. Like clockwork, we made love and satisfied each other every night until that Thursday night. This was the first night since I started my loving Lucas plan that I gave up Intim. Honey, not today. I want to be unavailable to you until we get to the resort. The truth was that Jackson demanded that I not have Intim with my husband that day before him. I pushed away all the guilt that welled up inside me, knowing that in a few days, it would all be over, and then I would give Lucas all of me forever. I just needed this one time with Jackson to get all the years of disappointment out of my head. When Mary told me that Jackson considered Vanessa his work wife, it really upset me. It bothered me so much that it affected our nightlife and my intimate drive. The thought of her having these feelings for another man is something I can't handle. It's not in my DNA. Then, suddenly, everything changed. When I returned from the gym one evening and Vanessa was waiting for me in an intimate nightgown, she knew that I was upset, and now she behaved as before. She doesn't talk about work or Jackson anymore, which is a big change. Usually, I have to listen to how wonderful her day was and how wonderful her boss is and so on. Nothing has happened in the last couple of weeks, not a single conversation about work, and now she was a new, exciting woman in bed, and her marriage began to bloom again. She dresses hot every night and cooks special dishes every night. It got better, we were doing new things. The new night was fantastic, but what I liked more than anything was the way she treated me in front of other people. She made me feel special and important, and I enjoyed everyone's attention. My love for her was stronger than ever, and it was as if we were starting our relationship all over again. It was Tuesday afternoon when Jackson and Vanessa went to lunch to discuss the upcoming weekend. She told Jackson how she explained to Lucas that the weekend was a special reward for their years of hard work. The resort had spots for boating, fishing, hiking, and the promise of a relaxing weekend. They arrived around noon on Friday and stayed until lunchtime on Sunday. There were a few times she felt a little guilty and almost canceled the weekend, but the chemistry she felt overrode her concerns. Eventually, Jackson convinced her that Lucas would go along with his plan. She reflected on how she had turned Jackson down all these years because she cared about her marriage, but now Jackson has finally convinced her that his plan will work. When he came up with this idea along with the $25,000 bonus that Lucas would receive as a token of appreciation for her years of work, he convinced her that they both needed this weekend to share the strong feelings they had been hiding all these years, just once, and then they will return to their partners and be faithful spouses for the rest of their years together. On Friday morning, Lucas and Vanessa were driving along a 1.5 kilometer private road lined with pine trees on both sides. It was like a postcard as they admired the sprawling estate. When they reached the clearing, they saw a resort nestled in the forest, a secluded spot overlooking 700 kilometers of Lake Mare coastline. Lucas stopped at the entrance to the large lobby, where a young bellman collected their luggage and immediately delivered it to their room. The attendant parked the car out of sight, and the hostess led them into the luxurious lobby. They were greeted by a young woman who handed them an envelope, welcoming them to the resort. Jackson had arranged for it to be just our group there that weekend, so they would have much more privacy and intimacy. Wow, this is already something. I can't believe places like this exist, Lucas said enthusiastically. I know, baby. Isn't this exciting? I hope you're ready for a fun weekend and open to new experiences, Vanessa replied. Oh yeah, I'm sure I'll enjoy acting like one of the rich people all weekend, Lucas said, smiling. She opened the envelope and read it aloud. Welcome to Lakeside Valhalla, a place where you can fulfill your dreams and relax in our beautiful surroundings. Please ask our hostess to take you to your room and make yourself comfortable. I will be notified when you arrive, and I will stop by to welcome you both to our resort. Jackson Grant. So, it's official. It's amazing, Vanessa said, delighted. Once in their room, Lucas began unpacking while Vanessa looked around the large suite, which had its own kitchen, 2 bedrooms, a living room, and several large screen TVs. It was almost as big as their apartment but much better furnished. Vanessa pulled back the curtains to reveal the view of the lake from her 5th-floor balcony. They stood outside on the balcony, enjoying the view. Lucas hugged Vanessa and kissed her warmly, enjoying the romantic scene. A few minutes later, they broke the kiss when there was a knock on the door. A second later, Jackson entered the room, smiled, and extended his hand to Lucas in a warm greeting. They shook hands, and Vanessa stood nervous and extremely tense. She knew this was the moment of truth and a potential disaster if Jackson couldn't convince Lucas of his plans. Welcome to our little resort, and thank you for coming here this weekend, Jackson said with a warm smile as the room door opened again, and a man walked in pushing a cart. On the cart was a chilled bottle of champagne and 3 glasses, as well as some fruit and flowers. Vanessa squealed excitedly when she saw the luxurious flowers and decor, hoping Lucas would feel the same. After Jackson nodded, the man uncorked a bottle of champagne, and with a loud pop, foam splashed out of the bottle, just like you see in the movies. While everyone was watching, the waiter poured the contents into glasses. What Vanessa and Lucas didn't notice was a small amount of white powder on the rear window, which disappeared as soon as it mixed with the liquid. Jackson had obtained just the right dose of medication to incapacitate Lucas enough to disrupt his weekend plans. Lucas, before we drink, I would like to give you a gift as a thank you for Vanessa's hard work, long business trips, and absence from you, he said, handing him a beautiful envelope. Inside was a check for $25,000 and a 2-page document. I don't understand, Lucas said, somewhat confused, looking at the check. You see, your wife has been an asset to our firm, and we know you have sacrificed a lot along the way. This is simply our way of expressing our gratitude to you, Vanessa spoke excitedly. Oh my God, honey, isn't this incredible? Isn't that the amount of money you need to buy your boat? Thank you, Jackson, Vanessa hugged Lucas, who was still embarrassed but happy about the gift. As planned, Jackson turned to Vanessa and said, Vanessa, do you have your phone handy? Why don't you use your banking app and deposit the money now to have it credited to your account straight away? Good idea, but my battery is almost dead. Honey, give me your phone. You have the same banking application. Lucas handed her his iPhone and signed the check. While Vanessa worked on the phone app and took photos of the front and back of the check, Jackson asked Lucas to sign the paperwork that came with the check. "I just need you to sign a confidentiality agreement for our legal and tax departments," he said, handing Lucas a pen. Lucas began to read the document, which was filled with legal jargon, until Vanessa interrupted him. She tried to divert his attention from the document, which was a non-disclosure agreement that prevented Lucas from talking about the weekend events. The paragraph at the bottom of the second page contained legal language that included his agreement to be paid for allowing his wife to spend the weekend with Jackson. This clearly indicated that he agreed to the arrangement to pay $25,000. Vanessa knew nothing about this part of the plan, and Jackson, knowing that this was the decisive moment, took control of everything. "Lucas, you can look at the documents later. It's just a standard document saying that you are not disclosing the amount of the gift and that it was part of the expenses for our business meeting." Vanessa kissed him and said, "Just sign this, baby, so I can make the final deposit." He quickly signed it and placed it on the table while Vanessa deposited money into his bank account. "That's all, honey. The money is in your account, and when we return, you can order the boat of your dreams. Isn't that great?" Lucas was a little confused by the tumultuous events that were unfolding. He knew that this was not so, but contrary to his better judgment, he was overcome with excitement when he noticed how happy Vanessa was in the way Jackson treated him. Given the gift for the exact amount of money he needed to buy the boat, it all seemed a little far-fetched to him. Even though he was careful, he allowed himself to get carried away by all the excitement and enjoyed the moment to the fullest. The way Vanessa was eager to deposit the check into his account also struck him as odd, but in the end, he didn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. "Fine time for a toast," Jackson said, passing glasses of champagne around. "Let's drink to spending this time with special friends. May the weekend bring us new joys and excitement." They clinked glasses and drank while looking out at the lake. Jackson knew it would take a few minutes for the pill to take effect, and he entertained his guests until he knew it was time for his next move. After talking about the resort for 5 minutes, Jackson turned to Vanessa and said, "Vanessa, could you leave Lucas and me alone for a few minutes?" Vanessa knew that this was the moment when her husband would find out about her desire to spend the weekend with Jackson. She prayed that the news wouldn't hurt or upset him. She believed Jackson when he told her that her husband would give her a chance after he explained everything. Now, for the first time, she was worried that her desire to be with Jackson might be something her husband wouldn't agree with, but she pushed those thoughts aside. As soon as she left the room, stepping out onto the balcony, Jackson pointed to the lake and said, "Lucas, you're going to have a great day of fishing tomorrow. This lake is famous for sport fishing, and the guides know the ideal fishing spots, or so I heard. I'm not a big fan of fishing, but Vanessa told me it's your favorite hobby." He continued talking to give the substance time to work its magic. Finally, he saw the substance begin to take effect on Lucas. He watched as Lucas began to feel the effects of the powder and saw him looking for a chair. At that moment, Lucas felt as if he had just drunk 3 glasses of vodka martinis, which made him relax and unsteady on his feet. Jackson noticed this and helped Lucas sit in one of the chairs on the balcony. When Vanessa left the men alone, Jackson knew it was time to explain everything before the sedative took full effect. "Lucas, I want to thank you for bringing Vanessa here for the weekend. As you know, we have been very close for the past 7 years, but I swear we have never been together intimately. We both remained faithful to Mary and you out of respect." Lucas smiled and nodded. "The real reason for this weekend is that Vanessa and I just want to spend the weekend together. She has been my colleague for 5 years, and sometimes I feel closer to her than to my own wife, so I want her to be my real wife for the next 2 days. I know this may come as a shock to you, but you have to understand that this is just a one-time thing that we both want and will never happen again. After 20 years, I convinced Vanessa that you could give her this one-time pass to spend the weekend with me. When you leave on Sunday, we will never talk about this again, and everything will be as if it never happened. Do you understand?" Lucas felt the effect of something on his body but was still painfully aware of what Jackson was saying. He spoke slowly but clearly, "No way in hell. I'll kill you. Keep your hands off my wife, Jackson. I'm only telling you this because I promised Vanessa she would never cheat on you. Don't be mad at her. It took a lot of effort, but I convinced her that you wouldn't mind and let her be with me this one time. She insisted that you wouldn't allow it, but I spent the last month convincing her that you would understand and accept my gift. After I leave you, I will go to her and tell her that you agreed to everything, including our fantastic game this weekend. Don't be angry with her. I can be convincing, and she trusts me completely. I know that the powder is starting to work. Don't fight it and just relax. And before you go crazy, Vanessa has no idea that I pilled you with anything. I'll tell her you won't ruin our plans and look forward to seeing her again on Sunday afternoon. She will know that you are being treated like a VIP guest and that you have agreed not to come near us or speak to us until you leave. This is part of our fantasy. You understand, Lucas, it's important for you to know that Vanessa would never cheat on you and that she would only agree to us being together if you knew and agreed with our plans. I convinced her that you wouldn't mind if we were together, it won't be cheating. The reason I'm telling you this again is that we know you so well, and if you knew what I was planning, you would never have come here. That's why we didn't tell you before. I am truly sorry that I deceived you, but this was the only way for us to be together with your consent. It took a lot of effort for Lucas to speak. Listen, I will never agree to this, and I will tell Mary. He wanted to jump out of his chair and beat this man half to death, but his body did not obey, and he felt that he was falling into a dark hole. Lucas, in the document you signed, you agreed for Vanessa to be with me this weekend. You also agreed to money as payment for lending her to me. Besides, you are required by law not to talk to anyone about this weekend, including Mary. You signed the contract and transferred money to your account from your phone. It's all legal. Yes, I may have deceived you a little, but it was the only way. Just try to accept it. You really have no choice. Vanessa loves you, and it will all be over before you know it. On Sunday evening, everything will return to normal. You'll get your wife back in your new boat. This wonderful woman will be yours again forever. This is not all, so try to stay with me. Lucas, Vanessa and her luggage will be gone when you wake up, so don't panic. I took the liberty of taking your phone, tablet, and all communication devices. We also took other precautions, and I was on the safe side to make sure you didn't break the contract or do anything stupid. The powder prevented Lucas from speaking at this moment, but he heard every word, plunging further into the darkness from which he was trying to escape. Lucas, you have $25,000 for your boat, and all I ask is that you understand that Vanessa will be safe for the next 2 days as she experiences something new as my wife. To be honest, I have arranged for a companion to visit you and keep you company during this time. It was my idea, and I had to convince Vanessa that you should play while Vanessa and I are together. She didn't like it, but I made her understand how painful it would be for you to be alone during our fantasies together. I think you'll like it if you just accept things as they come. When you wake up tonight, everything will be clear. Now, get some rest. Lucas's head was a complete mess. Anger and fury took over his body, and his heart broke as he sat there, exhausted. He couldn't move as his body drifted across no man's land. The last thing he saw was Jackson smiling sympathetically at him and patting him on the back just before his eyes closed, and he fell into darkness. Jackson left the room and ordered the men outside to come back inside and put Lucas to bed while he slept off his drunkenness. The two men entered the room and did as they were told, while Jackson entered the elevator and went up to his penthouse to begin his weekend with his new wife. Vanessa paced back and forth in Jackson's room, anxiously waiting to see how their conversation would go, and was startled when Jackson entered the room. She didn't think Lucas would go along with Jackson's plan and was terribly nervous about her husband's reaction. How did he take it? Is he okay? She asked anxiously. When he entered the room, Jackson saw her concern and knew he had to be convincing for his plan to work. So, he confidently told Vanessa his version of their meeting, which of course was a lie and the only way he knew she would accept his plan. Well, as you can imagine, he was shocked at first. But after I explained to him how much you love him and that we need his blessing before we continue, he calmed down a little. He was against it and fought for you, as we predicted, but when I explained that this was what you wanted and that it would only be this time, he resigned himself. Then I reminded him about the money and that on Sunday it would all be over, and that you two would be together forever, better than ever before. I left, and Lucas said that if this is what you really want, he can give it to you once. He even talked about your 20 years together and said he could give you this weekend if that was important to you, and he couldn't wait to hug you again on Sunday. He's a good man, Vanessa, and he loves you more than I ever thought possible. But I'm not sure I'd be so generous with a beautiful woman like you. I think the company we organized for him will help him take his mind off us. Now come here, woman, and show me how much you love your new husband, he said with a satisfied smile. He knew that everything was going according to plan, and he rejoiced in his genius. The time has finally come to take this woman and make her your wife. Vanessa was so happy that she threw herself into his arms and gave him a hot kiss that led to an hour of wild intimacy. After 7 years of flirting and bottling up their feelings, they enjoyed their crazy night to give free rein to their pent-up desires. In fact, her intimate need was greater than she could remember. She couldn't wait and now held herself under control while Jackson watched her with a sly smile. He finally got what he had been waiting for 7 years, and now he had Lucas's wife for the whole weekend. Without warning, Jackson stood up and went to shower, leaving Vanessa alone with her thoughts. There was no love or tenderness in him like she had with Lucas. It was just lustful, dirty intimacy and nothing more. For the first time, she began to question her decision to be with Jackson instead of her husband. Suddenly alone, she realized what she had done and was overcome with guilt. She laid her head on the pillow and cried, thinking about Lucas for the first time since she broke up with him more than an hour ago. Confusion took over her thoughts. She was shocked to hear that Lucas agreed to everything. But perhaps Jackson was right, and she deserved indulgence after 20 years of being a faithful wife. She knew she would give her husband as much love and night as she could when they left here on Sunday. She told herself that she would make him the happiest husband in the world because he was so generous and understanding. When Lucas opened his eyes 2 hours later, he was confused and disoriented. He felt Vanessa's warm skin lying next to him in bed and began to remember. As he turned to face his wife, he was brought back to reality by the fact that the young girl next to him was not Vanessa. She was a young, pretty girl in her early 20s whom he didn't recognize. In one swift motion, he sat up fearfully, rubbing his eyes and trying to clear the fog from his head. "Who are you? Why are you here?" he asked anxiously. "Relax, baby, I'm Sandy, your girl for the weekend. Now lie back and hug me, my love," Sandy replied. Lucas jumped out of bed, and when he realized he was without clothes, grabbed his underwear from the floor and covered himself with it. "Where's my wife?" "You must leave," he exclaimed. "I don't know, but I'm yours for this weekend. Everything is arranged, and they said that you will be waiting for me," Sandy insisted. "They lied to you. It's a setup, and you have to leave. But I won't get paid if you kick me out. Can I stay here, please?" Sandy pleaded. "Get dressed and let me think," Lucas replied. At that moment, he looked around the room and noticed that Vanessa's luggage and all her belongings were missing. Hell, she moved out of his room. He didn't have a cell phone, so he used the hotel phone. He couldn't call directly, but he got through to an operator who connected him to Jackson's number. He was shocked when she answered. "Vanessa, is that you?" he asked. "Hey, baby, yes, it's me. Are you okay?" Vanessa replied. "No, I'm not fine." "Where are you, baby?" Lucas inquired. "Just relax. I'll get back to you on Sunday. In the meantime, I'll stay with Jackson. He told me that you understood everything and you were happy with everything. Please don't make a scene. We'll be together again on Sunday afternoon, and everything will be fine. Do you like the girl Jackson found for you? I want you to like her, it's only fair. I don't want you to think about us this weekend," Vanessa explained. At that moment, the phone went off. It was disconnected, and Lucas was upset. He called back, but there was no answer. Back in his room, Jackson hung up and reminded Vanessa that there would be no call until Sunday afternoon. He reminded her that the fantasy required that they not communicate or think of Lucas as her husband until Sunday afternoon. After all, Jackson was now her husband for the weekend. "Vanessa, I'm a jealous person, and I won't allow my wife to talk to her old lovers," he said, hugging her and kissing her. She kissed back, feeling guilty for hanging up on Lucas, but she knew Jackson was right and took his advice. After all, it was only for 2 days, and they would be together again forever. Lucas was still holding the phone in his hand. "That's it," he thought. "I've just been made a cuckold. I was forced to come to terms with my wife's infidelity, and apparently, I had no other choice." Sandy, the escort, watched him talk to himself, and now he was staring at the phone. After putting on his shoes, Lucas told Sandy that she could stay but move to another bedroom and that there would be no intim because he was still a faithful husband. Lucas tried to leave the room but found it locked from the outside. They locked him in a room, took his phone, and made him a prisoner. He wanted to go out and started banging on the door. To his surprise, the door opened immediately. When the door opened, he looked up and saw two very large men blocking the entrance. Lucas was a man of average height, but he had to look up to these giants, and he quickly understood the situation. "Hi, Lucas, I'm Jay, and this is Blake. We will accompany you during your stay to ensure you have a safe weekend," Jay introduced themselves. "So you guys are my bodyguards?" Lucas asked. "Something like that. Where are you going now?" "I need something to eat," Lucas replied. The men were not very talkative and took him to an empty dining room where he was served food. They sat at a nearby table while he tried to plan his escape. Since he did not have access to his car and was under the supervision of these people, it was not easy. At that moment, Lucas realized that he could actually be a prisoner at this resort while his wife was entertained by her lover. It was by far the worst day of his life. The woman he loved and trusted had just betrayed him in the worst possible way. They put something in his drink and forced him to come to terms with her cheating, and then made him a prisoner at the same resort where she cheats on him. And then she expects him to take her back after she gets involved with another man? It will not happen. Jay looked at Lucas and noticed his distress. "Lucas, are you okay?" "No, Jay, I'm far from okay," Lucas replied. "I can understand how you feel. This must be difficult. But, Lucas, you have to understand that we are here to protect you this weekend. You can't hurt any of them because you'll get hurt. That's why he hired us, to protect you from doing anything stupid. Dude, it's only for 2 days. In the meantime, you have this nicely thing in your room and full access to the resort. Why don't you enjoy your weekend, and then you can do what you need to do when you go away? You can either be angry and tormented all weekend, or you can enjoy the comforts. Either way, you're stuck here, and you're not going to do anything crazy. Maybe you are right. I can divorce this when I get home, let her have her party, and I'll find a way to deal with it. I just can't believe they did this to me and expect me to accept all of this. They are the dumbest people I've ever met if they think I'm just going to take this," Lucas lamented. Blake gave Lucas a sympathetic smile as he ate his dinner and read the directions Jackson had left. Fishing on the lake at 6 a.m. sounded tempting, so he decided to do just that. After all, why not? Lucas had no choice but to continue to be angry. Lunch on the veranda at 12 or a massage at 2, and then spa treatments until 4. Dinner at 6 p.m. at Lakeside Grill. Formal attire. Lucas hadn't brought anything official, and they could kiss his 5th place. He would wear whatever he wanted. He had no idea that one of the suits Vanessa had packed would be waiting for him in his room when he returned from the spa. Obviously, all this was planned and orchestrated in advance. Lucas never thought she could be so sneaky and cunning, but she always got what she wanted. Well, she would learn the price of her deceit and selfishness. The men brought some food back to the room for Sandy, who sat in the large open living room watching a movie. Lucas sat down next to her and simply stared into space, trying to comprehend the events of the last 12 hours. Sandy was smart and let him sit there without saying a word. "You know they locked us here, don't you?" Sandy finally spoke up. "Yes, they told me everything, and that suits you, Lucas. I'm not going to lie. What they're doing is disgusting, and I can't imagine how you feel. I agreed to this only after they agreed to my demands. I earned 3 months' salary to spend 2 days locked up with a handsome man in an expensive luxury suite at a gorgeous resort. I know I'm a bad person, but I need money. Please don't be angry with me. I'm not at all happy with what they're doing to you. I'm here if you want to talk or do anything. I'm here for you this weekend." Lucas needed a friend and someone to talk to, so he agreed to this offer and went to his bedroom. He was still woozy and needed sleep. The next morning, he got dressed and went to the boat dock as scheduled. By 6 a.m., Lucas was on the lake with his rods in the water, and by 7 a.m., he had 3 great catches. The lake was full of fish, and the size of the fish was the largest he had ever seen. Time flew by, and thoughts of his cheating wife were fortunately forgotten. It was the best fishing he had ever experienced, and for the first time since they arrived, he was happy and not thinking about the problem. Lucas returned and cleaned himself up for dinner, and Sandy joined him on the porch with Blake and Jay, his new friends. They stood next to his table while he was served a fantastic lunch and a bottle of wine. It was truly the lifestyle of the rich and famous. While Lucas ate, he looked at the large lake and felt the warm sun, trying not to think about his situation. Lucas didn't notice her approach, and without warning, Vanessa stood next to him and, as if in a hurry, kissed his forehead. When he stood up, his bodyguards helped him back into his chair. "Hi, darling. I just wanted to say hello and thank you for the weekend. I love you, and I'll see you at dinner," Vanessa said before turning and walking away. She wore a hottest swimsuit and high heels that showed off her tight fifth place and long legs. Lucas was angry and wanted to drown her in the lake, but he was forced to sit there and be a good prisoner. He watched as she walked over to Jackson, who took her hand and kissed her tenderly before they walked hand in hand to the other side of the veranda, where they sat at a secluded table. The pain of their betrayal and humiliation was something Lucas could never put into words. He was stunned and speechless as he sat there, knowing that his loving wife was acting like another man's wife and turning her back on their marriage. As Lucas sat 100 meters away from his husband, tears streamed down his face, and for the first time, he felt broken and useless. He swore to himself that he would never experience this feeling again. Sandy sat next to him and gently wiped away his tears, comforting Lucas in the despair she had just witnessed. His anger at seeing the two of them together was overwhelming, and the massage and spa did little to ease his feelings that day. When Lucas returned to his room, he and Sandy sat on the patio and just looked out at the lake. She pulled her chair over to Lucas and hugged him as he sat and cried about the end of his marriage and the loss of his wife. They started talking, and he poured out everything he had to her, which eased his grief a little. She looked at him in shock, unable to believe what she heard. "Sandy," he said with a tender smile, "that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Did your wife really think that you would let her become another man's wife for a weekend while you were at the same resort? This is just stupid. I feel sorry for you. What can I do to help? I don't know anything right now, but maybe you'd like to have dinner with me and keep me company. I hate eating alone." "Yes, sure. They brought us clothes for dinner. Yours is in the closet, and my dress is on the hanger. Where are we going to dinner? I think they're going to keep us here until 6 p.m. since we're locked here." "We are at their mercy," Lucas sighed. The continuation of the story would be in the next part. What do you think of our first part of the story today? It seems to me that it is not quite legal to get a man drunk and let him sign a paper, but since the husband cannot prove it, his authority is not taken into account in court. What's your opinion? Write in the comments. Until the next installment, see you soon.